meetings just like like.
Mhm.
And then to turn it back. I mean, they can still see you.
Oh, okay, then that's fine.
I would just leave it like.
I'm not worried about it.
I'm not. Unless you just want them to see you.
Not too worried about it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm not good about attending these, but it's a great way to just see what others are thinking and whatnot. So thank you for letting me know.
Oh,
'cause
yeah, absolutely.
I,
You're welcome.
I'm strictly on the commercial side, so,
Mhm.
but I took one of these, I think was it Amanda Warren that taught it? And I was like, there's a couple things you pick up in these classes if you just take the time to do them, so thank
Oh,
you. for
yeah.
letting me know. I didn't know if it was in person or, so,
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. I appreciate you being here.
yeah, wow.
Yeah, sorry to-
So group coaching is open to all ages. Is that-
Yes.
We have them.
All
Okay,
ages.
different. Pardon?
Did you say all ages?
Agent.
Oh, I was gonna say,
agents. My son-in-law, agents.
Heavier on the side, yeah, sour side.
Yeah.
Better, you got one.
Yeah.
Need to move.
One, yeah. All my businesses. Think about it.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I think all of my buyers came in from out of state.
Oh, well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, why? Oh, yes and no. You
They're all
gotta
coming
teach them.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I appreciate y'all being here. I know we've got a few people on Zoom with us also. Welcome to you as well. My name is Stephanie Can. I am with the Genesis Overbeck team here with Keller Williams Atlanta North. And it is really an honor to be here with you guys today. As I was preparing for this, and trying to decide what topic to cover, I'm a nerd when it comes to writing contracts. I love contracts. I'm like, we talk about creative contract writing or, what is that going to be? And then last week, I saw this video of John Maxwell and I took a complete 180 and I said, I have got to share this with you because it impacted me that greatly that I thought, how could I not share this? So the video is about 23 minutes long. Hi, come on in. Video is about 23 minutes long. I'm gonna play the whole thing, but it's that good. And then we will spend our time talking through the things that he's covered. I've made notes, so a lot of the bullet points that you'll see where he's filling in the blanks, don't feel like you missed out on something if you can't write it down fast enough. I'll go over all of those again at the end, and then we'll just kind of lean into that with some discussion too. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Lesson has to deal with the price tag of leadership, which is self-discipline. When people ask me, and they do in Q&A all the time, John, what is your greatest leadership challenge? I always give them the same answer. My greatest leadership challenge is leading me. That's my biggest problem. My biggest leadership problem is John Maxwell. Yeah, leading me. See, it's much easier to lead you. My gosh, I'm teaching you these lessons on developing the leader with you. It's so easy to lay out these thoughts, these ideas, give you these steps to do it. It's so good. And then when I'm done, I leave you. It's just wonderful. Good luck. See, it's easier to teach what I know than it is to live what I know. Teaching is easy. Living it, it's more difficult. And that's where self-discipline comes into play. In my book, Intentional Living, and when I teach it, one of the things I do for people is I give them a visual. And this is a visual that works for intentional living, but it's a terrific visual for self-discipline. I always do this. Because what I want you to know, what I want to know is that everything worthwhile is uphill. Everything. There is nothing in your life, there is nothing in my life that's worthwhile, that's quick and easy. It's all uphill. You have to fight for it every day. You have to climb for it every day. Doesn't come to you. It's not in 3 easy packages, and it's not the cure to overnight success. It's like one guy said, all my life I've worked hard at being an overnight success. Everything worthwhile is uphill. Now the problem is we have downhill habits. Now if you have downhill habits and you have uphill hopes, you're in trouble. And the only way that you go uphill is by self-discipline. So listen to me very carefully. It's impossible for you to have continuous success without having self-discipline in your life. Impossible. And my greatest challenge as a leader is your greatest challenge as a leader. And that is every day keeping people climbing. Because they don't want to climb. They want to coast to success. Huh? Are you with me? They want it to come to them. They treat it like the lottery. And they just kind of hope that if they're at the right place at the right time, something wonderful will happen to them. It won't. Everything worthwhile is uphill. All the way, not partially uphill. And the challenge that we all have is we don't mind climbing uphill for 3 or 4 days, as long as we can coast for a couple. I deserve a break. I deserve a break. I deserve a break. See, what you don't understand is 4 days of climbing is wiped out with 1 day of coasting. And you're back to the same place that you were. And you wonder why you're not being successful. It's faster downhill than it is uphill. It's easier downhill than it is uphill. It's quicker downhill than it is uphill. And so what happens is we have a lot of good uphill days, but we have a few downhill days, and the few downhill days cancel out all the uphill days. So people ask me all the time, they'll say, are you writing another book? Yeah. I'm always writing another book. In fact, I'm always writing 3 books. I'm creating one, writing one, and finishing one. Well, do you do that all the time? Every day. Honest to God, I've never had a book write itself. It would be nice if I could figure it out. I'm going to buy into that program. No, I've got to write every one of those suckers. And I love people who say, well, how do you do that? With a legal pad and a pen. 1 word at a time. What's your secret? Every day. Every day. Now, self-discipline, the first thing it does, it enables you to go uphill. You can't go uphill without self-discipline. Nobody will carry you uphill. Nobody can coach you uphill. Nobody can push you uphill. If you go uphill, you got to do it yourself. There are no free rides uphill. There's no such thing as accidental achievements. It's the bridge. Self-discipline is the bridge between good intentions and good actions. Good intentions is on one side of the water and good actions is on the other side. And the bridge is self-discipline that takes our good intentions and turns them into good action. And the question is my attitude about self-discipline, is it a tunnel or is it a bridge? If it's a tunnel, then self-discipline is heavy. Because it's always about what I'm going through. Well, I'm going through this. Well, I'm going through this. There's a difference between going through something and going to something. When you're going to something, you're on the bridge. When you're going through something, you're on the end of the tunnel, in a tunnel, hoping there's some light at the end of the tunnel. So if self-discipline is a heavy thing for you, it's a hard thing for you. But if self-discipline is a journey for you, it's easier for you. Is it a bridge or is it a tunnel? Am I going through it? Oh, I hope I get there. Or am I going to it? Secondly, self-discipline is the difference between temporary success and sustained success. Because the uphill journey is all the way. You don't get flat land and you don't get down land. It's just all up land. And so the core of all success principles is the core of it is self-discipline. Most people want what I call a quick fix. Okay, John. Okay. Talk to me. Help me out here. What's the quickest way for me to be very wealthy, highly influential, and very successful in life? It's just cut out just give me just straight, quick, fast, easy way. There's no such thing. It's uphill all the way. And self-discipline is the vehicle that gets you there. Listen to me carefully. There is nothing I can do for an undisciplined person to make them successful. And the quicker you understand that and quit working with those kind of people, they'll wear you out. What have you done for me lately? Can't you carry me for a while? I don't want to carry you. I want to throw you off the bridge. The only energy I want to exert with you is throwing you down. I have no desire to. It's the pay now, play later scenario. You either pay now, that's what my father taught me, and then you got to play later. Or you can play now and you pay later. But you're going to pay it. Do you want to pay on the front end or you want to pay on the back end? If you pay on the front end, the cost is less than the back end. Every day you delay the payment gets at greater level. Number 3, self-discipline makes habit your servant instead of your master. Now, habit becomes your servant, not your master. Once you understand self-discipline, habit begins to serve you instead of you serving them. Now, we talked about uphill hopes, downhill habits. Are you with me? So let me on the screen, let me show you the difference between uphill climbing and downhill sliding. See, on uphill climbing, everything worthwhile is uphill. Can I tell you on downhill slide? Nothing worthwhile. There's nothing worthwhile. If you're going uphill, you get wins, you get losses. Downhill. If you're uphill, you're preparing. If you're going downhill, you're repairing. I know people every day, they just repair. They just are fixing yesterday every day. High morale is uphill climbing. Low morale is in downhill sliding. You get high self-respect if you climb uphill. Low self-respect if you're going downhill. Self-improvement uphill, no improvement downhill. You're purposeful uphill, you're aimless downhill, you're fulfilled uphill, you're empty downhill, you're making a difference uphill, you're not making any difference downhill, you're intentional in your actions uphill, you're got just good intentions on downhill. Wow. Now, all of this uphill climbing can be described in the phrase self-discipline. Again, it takes a highly self-disciplined person to uphill climb. And only self-discipline will get you there. Now, okay, let's talk about emotions for a moment, because we all have them. We're all emotional creatures. Emotions are a wonderful thing. I love emotions. They allow me to express a lot of things to a lot of people. So I'm not anti-emotions, but let me say something. Emotions without thinking is downhill. You show me a person that's emotional, that doesn't think, and they only got one way to go, downhill. And emotions with wrong thinking is downhill. And if you put emotions above thinking, it's downhill. So how do you get uphill? That's when you have emotions, but with right thinking. Because when you think right, your thinking will always trump your feelings. They always will. Not in the beginning. So you got to give people time to work through that. In the beginning, it's emotional. We feel that, well, my gosh, it's wrong, and I'm mad about that. Right? It's okay. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Here's what I say. Let your emotions emote for the first few hours. But then let thinking come into your life. You with me? And if thinking doesn't come in your life, there's no uphill to it. Self-discipline, number 4, is most easily developed in your strengths and in your passion. Because self-discipline needs fuel. And the fuel comes through doing what you love and doing what you're good at. There's a relationship between willpower and why power. There's a connection. And the connection is very simple. When you're doing your why, your purpose, you have a will. Because it's what you love. It's what you care about. That's what I call making self-discipline easier. And so therefore, I'm very self-disciplined in adding value to people because it's a passion of mine. Are you with me? I'm very self-disciplined in writing. I write at 5:30 in the morning. I write before people want to see me. And I get very excited about that. I don't get up at 5:30 and oh my God. Gotta write again. Okay, here we go. Come on, thoughts. Hit me. No thoughts hit me. I'm gonna lay down for a moment, sleep on it for a while. Yeah. I get so excited when I wake up because I know I'm about to write. And the moment the pen starts moving, the ideas begin to come. The moment the pen starts moving, you got to move the pen. The ideas don't come to the hand without the pen. It's the motion controlling the emotion, which turns into self-discipline. So I don't have to write, I get to write. So people say, I admire your self-discipline. Let me tell you something. When you fall in love with something as much as I fall in love with something, you'll be self-disciplined also. A lack of self-discipline is a lack of knowing what you want in life. And when you don't know what you want, you won't have any self-discipline power to get there. Self-discipline, number 5, makes consistency possible. And consistency It always has and always will. See, consistency is the prerequisite of excellence. You only become excellent in something because you're consistent with it. If you're inconsistent and it's hit or miss, you've never hit or missed your way to excellence. It's consistency. And consistency reinforces the vision that you have and the values that you have. People do what people see. So when you're consistent with that, people see you doing it and it becomes a value in there because leadership is highly visual. People do what people see. And consistency establishes your reputation. You get a reputation by doing the same thing extremely well. Wow. And that consistency provides security for other people because they now know they can depend on you. If you've been good in the past and you're good in the present, there are pretty good odds that you'll be good in the future. It's that consistency that brings security to people when they say, wow, as a leader, I can depend upon you. And when you do all those things and put them together, consistency compounds. And so here's what I mean. I've been speaking like I'm speaking now, not as well, but I've been speaking for 50 years. Okay? For 50 years. So people, they watch me teach. They said, John, God, you're such an incredible communicator. You just sit on a stool, and drink your water, suck a cough drop, laugh and talk and walk around and sit down with us. You seem totally relaxed. Well, I am. I'm not nervous. Wasn't nervous before I came out. I'm not nervous now. I'm with friends. I'm having a wonderful time. This isn't hard. This is very easy. How? What's the secret? All right, we're friends. I'm going to come down and I'm going to share the secret with you. But don't tell anybody. Just between you and me. Here's the secret. I've done this 12,000 times. A secret. 12,000. Let me put it this way. If after 12,000 times I'm not any good and I'm nervous, it's not my gift. You see, we miss consistency because in the beginning, we counted one at a time. And we're so obsessed with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, 8. Does it say times? 8. You shouldn't even start counting until you get to about 10,000. It compounds. Writing the same way. I shared with you. It was my 7th book when I got good at writing. 7 books. The first 6 books, people were saying to me, when you going to write another book? When's your next book coming out? They're saying, oh my God, you wrote another one? Oh, wonder how long he's going to do that. The first 6 books, only my mother bought the books. Get the picture. Training, I've been doing it for 39 years. Writing, I've been doing it for 38 years. Providing resources, I've been doing it for 35 years. Self-discipline allows every day to count, and self-discipline allows every day to compound. And what you got to understand is you'll never know how good you're going to be until you've done it long enough to know how good you can be. That was really good. You're never going to know how good you're going to be until every day you do it. Discover how good you can be. And self-discipline is what allows you and me to get better. And here's the way it works. In the beginning, when you start off, you're not as bad as people think you are. Because I know what it was like to start off. And I started off, I remember when I first started speaking, and I wasn't really good. And I wanted to tell people, I wanted to say, I know it wasn't really good. But I'm really not that bad. I'm not quite as bad as you think I am. Because in the beginning, people just think you're worse than you are. But let me tell you how consistency works. If you do it really good, over time, in the end, you're not as good as people think you are. It's called the consistency flip. After a while, people just say, my gosh, they're amazing. No, not amazing, just done it 12,000 times. If you can't do it good after 12,000 times, find a new gig, okay? Get a new career, go do something else. Self-discipline. Is it a bridge? Are you going to something? If it is, it'll motivate you. Or is it a tunnel? Are you going through something? If you're a tunnel with your self-discipline, you'll quit all the time. But if you're a bridge, you'll keep going because you see what you're going to, not what you're just going through. That's self-discipline.
Okay, wow.
Wow.
Don't get something up. That's why when I started kind of planning what I was going to talk about today, I thought, okay, yeah, we could talk about creative contract writing, or we could talk about, how to get the next listing, or, the best way to acquire new customers. But if we don't have this figured out first, we'll never be good at anything else that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I even took more notes as I'm sitting here listening to it now for the third time, because I keep gathering more and more nuggets from what he shared. I definitely want to kind of go one at a time through the touch points that he shared. And let this be an open discussion, because I'd love to get your feedback and what your thoughts are, whether it's in general or how it applies to your business. Because what my goal was, and what I was hoping, is that as you were hearing him talk about leadership, you were taking each of these points and applying it to your business, your life and your business, because ultimately, that's what's so important for us to grasp. So he said, first of all, it's impossible to have success without self-discipline. Any argument there? No, I felt like that one was pretty straightforward, right? And I loved when he said, I've never had a book write itself, right? One word at a time, one phone call at a time, one lead at a time, one email at a time, 1 hour at a time. I mean, I know sometimes it feels like, we're doing the things every single day and it becomes mundane. Like you said, just one word at a time, got to keep going. Let's see, there's so many things. There are no accidental successes or achievements. I thought that was pretty powerful. When he's talking about that uphill climb and everything uphill, everything worthwhile is uphill. That we've got to work for it. Yes, occasionally you might end up with a client that's ready to buy the first house that you show them, but how much work did you do to get that client? How much work did you do to get to where you were in that part of the process? So I thought that was really interesting.
And Stephanie,
Yeah.
we live in a society that it's like, how fast can I get to the inside?
Oh,
It
absolutely.
seems like everything is like just a quick, just, oh yeah, that's, you don't, yeah, you don't realize it's one step at a time, so.
And I think our society's always been like that to an extent. I just think it's become so much more magnified with media, social media and digitalization in general. Yeah, absolutely.
The paces.
Yeah, because I feel like it was much different when I was a kid, and remembering my parents and the way that, because I think, generations ago, they taught more about working really hard for what you want. And now we're in such a microwave society, Then you kind of led into talking about the tunnels and the bridges. What a great analogy. I mean, when I think about, for instance, our business over the last 6 to 9 months, as we came out of the frenzy of COVID and everything was so easy in that, people were scrambling. We had lots of buyers. As we're thinking about the last 6 months, where has our mentality been? Has it been more of a tunnel mentality? Like, oh, if we could just get through it, if we can just get through it. So I love the way he talked about the bridge and going to it, that there's a completely different mindset, and a perspective to have with that. His second line on self-discipline was, self-discipline is the difference between temporary success and sustained success. Is it just that quick satisfaction? Or are we talking about sustained success, building and maintaining those relationships? It's not just a one-time, let's get this deal closed and let me move on, but continuing to nurture those relationships so that can lead to, a referral or, more business with the same client. I think sometimes we get so focused on that one closing that we're like, hey, get it done, move on to the next, and then focus on our other clients. And I think it's really important that we're focusing on maintaining those relationships moving forward. Let's see, self-discipline makes habit your servant instead of your master. That one took me a little bit to kind of really grasp and sink into. But making habit your servant instead of your master. I mean, they say it takes 3 weeks of consistently doing something for it to become a habit. Well, we've got to make good habits, right? It's the bad habits that can absolutely become our master. So it's those good habits that we have to work on consistently.
I wrote that down wrong. I actually put self-discipline makes habit your helper. So I've just changed it back to servant, but it's the same thing. It makes your helper instead of your master, that goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. Self-discipline is most easily developed in areas of strength and passion. Are you passionate about what you're doing? Do you love your job? Do you look at it as a job, or is it, like he said, something that he gets to do? That was probably one of my favorite lines and segments. Was John Maxwell said, I get so excited when I wake up in the morning because I know I'm about to write. I don't have to write. I get to write. You've got to pick up the pen. So I think it's really important that we're, assessing how we feel about our job, how we feel about this industry. Because it's not always easy, there's the ups and downs. And full transparency for those that don't know me, I've only been in the business 3 years. So I joined literally 5 days before COVID started. I started on Monday, March 9th, and Friday the 13th, all offices shut down. So, I mean, I didn't know coming into COVID, what business was like at that point, you know, so I'm still learning, I'm still, you know, a work in progress. But the ups and downs of our market, yeah, that really stands the test of who we are, what are our strengths, what are our passions, and I think it's really important to lean into. A lack of self-discipline is a lack of knowing what you want in life. Wow. What do you want to be when you grow up? I hear adults say that sometimes. I don't know what I want to be. Like, are you just floundering? Like, is this just kind of an in-between thing? Is this, you know, the second choice because, you know, choice A or B, you know, didn't work out? Like, what does that look like for you?
It's probably a life through a bridge versus a tunnel.
Yeah.
I don't,
Mhm.
I hope I don't know what I want to grow up, be when I grow up. I gotta keep doing things and enjoying things, and
Mhm.
you know, it's kind of a journey, so.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's important for us to be purposeful where we are, you know, and to hone in on what that looks like and making a success out of that.
Do your best.
We'll see, self-discipline makes consistency possible, and consistency compounds. Right, he was talking about that compounding consistency, that it, you know, leads to more successes because you're continuing to remain consistency, and consistency upon consistency, you know, gets you to that greater level. And I think that, you know, just thinking about how do we apply that to our business, that consistency. Anybody have an example of what that would look like for us?
Keep doing the things that you should be doing that works as long as you can. Eventually it compounds. I think that's kind of what he mentioned, was just him not being afraid on stage. He's done it for so long, and people are asking him, how did you get that good?
Right.
Just the time and consistency.
I was a bit like when you're cooking something, like if you're cooking something and it doesn't quite taste right this time, you try it again and you have to change something. And then when you get it right, that's it. You've got this perfect recipe.
That secret sauce. Absolutely. Over the last, you know, 6 to 9 months, as we've seen the shift in the market, have you had to adjust the way you do your business? Is there more consistency? Is there more follow-up? I mean, give me an example. What have you done differently to kind of change your business with that consistency?
In my case, it's like I need to bring more kind of different actions and be more focused on those kind of actions than before. And I have to be very consistent. And I said, and this is me, I said, okay, if I'm going to start holding an open houses, I really need to do it at least every weekend for the next 3 months, and let's see how that kind of activity is going to result, or what is going to be the result for me. But I need to do it I need to be very focused and try to see what are those areas that I think it will be work for my business. So focused, something that I didn't do before, because thanks God, every business, it was a referral. So I don't have to do so much activities. So it's a huge flip.
Yeah, we've had to lean into being creative or working a little bit harder. And it's hard to dismiss any idea or concept that, oh, that won't work for me or that won't work for my business unless you at least try it, right? And like you said, not just try it once or twice, but try it consistently for a while to see how that works. And what works for you might not work for, you know, somebody else in the room. But I think it's really important that we're not just dismissive, but that we lean into trying new things, even when they're uncomfortable, right?
Yes,
It's easier to do the things that are comfortable,
yes.
that kind of maybe speak to our strengths. I mean, I know different agents that I've talked to recently as we're kind of having these conversations. For some of them, it's, I don't like social media, I don't like filming myself, or, you know, the reels. And a few of them have really, you know, dove into the idea of doing the very uncomfortable, and they're having success at it, and they're getting complimented on it by other agents that say, oh, I'm paying attention, I'm watching, you're doing great. We're always our worst critic, right? Or, you know, I know somebody else that tried door knocking that had never door knocked before. She heard that a lot of agents have success with it, and she's like, all right, I got to give it a shot. Did not work for her. She did not have a good experience. So she's kind of checked that off her list, but she tried it consistently. So I think it's just a matter of, you know, being open to stretch ourselves and to do things a little differently than we did before. For me, one thing that I have done during this time where we've had this shift and things have been a little bit slower is just going back and doing some massive follow-up with clients that I got to the closing table, and then others that I was nurturing for a while, but maybe had gotten so busy, you know, when the market was so crazy that I hadn't followed up with them in a while. And I will tell you, I mean, it's taken me quite a bit of time, you know, over the last several months, but I started pretty quickly when Gary and everyone else was saying, there's a shift coming, it's happening, you know, it's here. But probably my last, I would say 80% of my last 10 closings, so maybe 8 out of my last 10 closings, all came from people that I have been working with for about 2 years, at least a year, but even as far back as to when I first started 3 years ago. And it was because I was doing the hard things. I was doing the thing that maybe wasn't as fun, was to go back and dig through my pipeline and reconnect, kind of a, you know, awkward, hey, haven't heard from me in a while, but here I am thinking about you, what can I do for you? And that has really made a significant difference. So, you know, I've had to shift my thinking of how I'm finding that success and just being consistent with it. So that's really been something. Let's see. He also said, this was right at the very end, he said, you'll never know how good you're going to be until you've done it long enough to know how good you can be.
Enough.
Yeah, I'll repeat that one more time. You'll never know how good you're going to be until you've done it long enough to know how good you can be. What does that mean to you? Did that jump off?
Can you read that one again?
Yeah. You'll never know how good you're going to be until you've done it long enough to know how good you can be. I think it really goes back to what you were saying a minute ago about how he's done it 12,000 times. You know, he's been doing this for, what did he say, 50 years?
Yeah.
You know, not an overnight success. He just kept going and going and going and going, and he had to do it long enough to realize how good he could be. Being incredibly vulnerable with you for a minute, because I always feel like that's something that I like to lean into, especially being a newer agent. 3 years, as I told you. I hit the ground running. When COVID hit, it was, you know, I knew it was a sink or swim situation. It was either I get out and just be as safe as possible, or I might just sink and not even have a way to start. Like, how do you start at that point? So I did, I jumped in, and I've worked very hard, but I've been very blessed over the last 3 years. So as I've gotten out and I'm with clients more, and I've had closing after closing after closing, I was so new that I was, you know, I had fear. I had so many unknowns. I kept saying, I don't know what I don't know. But over the 3 years, I'm at a point now where I'm very comfortable. It's that I'm not nervous anymore. You know, when he talked about, I'm here on stage, I'm not nervous. I wasn't nervous before, I'm not nervous now. That's the way I walk into every listing appointment now. That's the way I meet my new clients. Even, you know, making a first phone call. I've gotten past that for me. You know, there are things I'm still nervous about, but you know, some of that has become so second nature to me because I've done it over and over and over again. I don't know about 12,000 times, but I've done it over and over and over again. When I was first approached to teach Ignite, I was terrified. And I thought, I'm you know, I feel practically brand new because I had only been here for about a year when they first asked me to start teaching. And I'm getting ready to start teaching again. We've got an Ignite session starting, and this will be, I think, my 5th time teaching Ignite. I always choose the same class because I'm a little bit of a creature of habit, but I love the class that I teach because, again, I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to contract writing, so that's the class I'm teaching. You know, making and receiving offers. I have a level of comfort there where I'm not nervous ahead of time. I'm not nervous while I'm there. I look forward to teaching Ignite like you would not believe. I absolutely love it. But it's been because I've put in the hours and the preparation and the planning to get to that point. Today, group coaching. This was the first time I had signed up to teach group coaching. Was I terrified walking in this room? You betcha. Am I still nervous sitting here in front of you as we're having this conversation? You betcha. But that's just me being fully transparent because this was something new for me. There were a lot of unknowns. I didn't know what this setting would look like, feel like, you know, having people on Zoom. For some reason that freaked me out, but here we are, you know. But it's about leaning into those uncomfortable situations, you know, and then being consistent. And I will probably, you know, do this again because I've really enjoyed this so far. But what I love so much is what I'm still learning and getting out of it. I mean, I told you I was taking notes again as he was talking. So what I want to, one other point I wanted to make was about thinking versus emotions. Holy cow, when he touched on that, I thought, okay, I could just see our business in a nutshell because we can be very emotional in the midst of a heated moment. Our clients are very emotional, I would say most of the time. You know, especially if you've got,
Say that again.
yeah, especially if you've got like a husband and wife, you know, you might have one thinker and one that's emotional. Every once in a while you might have 2 that are emotional. And it's
social workers.
yes, right? And it's tempting for us to become emotional, right? And we really have to put that in check sometimes. I'm trying to remember, was it him that said it to go ahead and be emotional for 4 hours? Or did he say that?
Yeah, I said to be emotional,
Or to get
to
it?
just let it out.
Yeah.
And then come back to thinking.
Okay, maybe it was somebody else that I heard say that, but it was like, okay, be mad, be angry, be frustrated for about 4 hours and then let it go.
How you can get it both? I mean, that transaction is, well,
Yeah, it's
in my personal opinion, is so hard because I try sometimes, you know, with those kind of difficult situations with clients, and I try it and I put some music and I control my breath and I couldn't get it.
I'll tell you, if I can add something here, I wish I could find the book.
Yeah.
Here's, I wish I could find this book. Years ago, I've been in real estate for about 10 years, and prior to that, I was 15 years in a very tough segment of the lending world. I mean, we lend money, basically we lent, I worked for private lenders who lent money to companies that couldn't get it traditional sources, and it was expensive money. No, it was not Guido breaks your knees. It was, we lend, it's kind of like Shark Tank without investing. And I've been called a loan shark. I've been called, I've been told, how can you live with yourself, Mike? I mean, you guys are like the scrunch of the earth. But I work for companies that provided, I did it for 15+ years. One company, almost 15 years alone, they were solid people who invested their capital. And I got hung up on the what I do and who I am. And somebody handed me a book that said, the hardest part about the business world is you have to remember who you are. Who you are as a spouse, a brother, a sister, a friend, a mother, a daughter, a parent. That's who you are. What you do is when people attack you. They attack you because what you do. You're not answering their questions. You're not leaning into their emotions. Why can't you find me a house? You know, why can't you find me a building? And I wish I could find the book because it gave me an aha moment. Was it's hard to let go of those emotions because they're coming at you because of what you do, not who you are. They don't know that you're possibly a mom, a spouse, a sister, a cousin, you know, an ongoing church member. You do volunteer work 20 hours a week. That's the who you are. It's the what you do is what they're angry with. And you got to let go of that so that when somebody grabs you by the ears and they're like, why can't you get this fixed? They're not mad at you as a person, they're mad at you of what you do.
So
And
we have to find a way to compartmentalize,
you do. And to me,
separate.
that's the part
Yeah.
about, maybe for me, I didn't mean to
No, this is
draw that
perfect.
out.
Yeah.
But it's probably because that 4 hours is not necessarily 4 hours, it may be 4 minutes or 40 minutes.
Right.
Is to step back and say that when I get up this morning, I'm a husband. My wife may be mad at me, but I'm a husband, I'm a parent, I'm a son, and I'm this. But then somebody's gonna get mad because I can't find my building fast enough. I can't create something that doesn't exist. But people don't see that. They don't see both sides of you. They only see that front side. You know, why can't you find me a house? You know, why can't the lender approve me for this loan? You know, da, 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 da. So,
Yeah, but it really is so important that we are thinking on behalf of our clients, on behalf of us, because then our reputation does come into play if we are overly emotional. You know, we will say things that we shouldn't say or don't mean to say in that moment. And I mean, that could destroy.
because they're going after the who.
Yeah.
That's where you gotta be careful. And if you don't keep those barriers up, they go, and that's what I learned is somebody called me a loan shark and it went after me personally. My integrity, I wouldn't work for a company that does that. So when people start chinking at your who, that's when I think your emotions, and I'm guilty as charged 100 times over. And that's a hard barrier to keep up is when somebody goes after you, they're going after your who, not your what you do. It's the who you are. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good perspective. So what I would encourage you to do, first of all, think about the last 6 months. Have y'all been in business at least the last 6 months? No, you're new. Okay. All right, so for those of you that have been here, think about the last 6 months. What has your mindset been? Have you been a tunnel or have you been a bridge? What has that looked like for you? Just an introspective type thought and question, and to take from today. And then think about the next 6 months. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a tunnel? Does anybody really want to be a tunnel? I think about that because I think about people that I know that are tunnels all the time. And I think, are they happy being that way? Is that really?
Can you explain the tunnel thing again?
The tunnel of I'm constantly going through this. I'm going through this and I'm going through that. And oh, this is so hard and I can't and I don't want to. And I think the tunnel has a lot to do with the excuses about your limiting beliefs. Absolutely. Yeah. To use a phrase that we hear all the time, but it's so true,
Probably being reactive and not proactive to things.
Yeah.
Probably if you just go into the tunnel.
Yeah.
You're just reacting to what's around you when you're not controlling that. So.
Reacting versus responding, and it's all about that perspective. And then the bridge is the going to it, seeing that what the current situation isn't something that you're going through, but it can be part of the process to the next step, getting over that bridge to the land again. You know, what does that land on the other side look like? You know, is it gonna take getting over that bridge to get to it? And having that mentality of, you know, having a positive perspective and leaning into all of the possibilities and, you know, the cans and the, you know, that positive mindset. You know, what does that look like for you over the next 6 months? You know, being new, planning your next 6 months, what kind of a mindset do you want to have? What is going to give you that success? You know, I think off of what we heard today, you know, and finding that self-discipline and that consistency, you know, believing wholeheartedly that the bridge is the kind of mindset that would get you there. And then I want you to write these down. I know some of you have been taking notes. And this, you know, applies mostly to people that have, you know, been in the business already for a little bit, but think about this. First of all, what have I learned about the market over the last 6 months? What have I learned about myself? And what have I learned about my clients and customers? What have I learned about the market? What have I learned about myself? And what have I learned about my clients and customers? Would anybody want to share what they've learned about themselves over the last 6 months? If not, no big deal. I know we gotta think about it sometimes for a minute.
Yeah, for me, I've learned that, you know, even if it's difficult, tough, bank account looks empty, what else can I do? And I've realized, well, I'm passionate about this, so I have to change, be patient and make it work. Because this is the job I like to do, it's a job I love to do, it's not just the money in it, it's something I'm passionate about. So I keep going till it pays off, you know. It's just a season. It's not a permanent thing, as long as you're doing it because you enjoy it and not because, oh, it pays good money. Because you will have peace and trust.
That's good. Anybody else? I think for me, I've learned that I'm capable of much more than I thought I was in this industry. You're just kind of coming in and being new 3 years ago and still feeling like I'm constantly learning. You know, I had started hearing, you know, anybody that came in during COVID, they had it so easy, they don't necessarily know what the real market looks like. And so I started hearing that, and not that I started believing it, because I knew I was one of those that had not experienced a normal market or a hard market per se. But I knew that I had to take very seriously the daily activities, and I had to take very seriously what those limiting beliefs might be. And I knew that I had to shift my thoughts and my my processes to, you know, work a little bit harder, dig in a little bit deeper. And I mean, I had been a stay-at-home mom for 17 years, you know, so even just coming into this industry, there was a lot of that, you know, can I cut it? Can I do it? Will people take me seriously? You know, there's a lot of that goes on in my head. And I'm very much a, you know, put my head down and get to work and stay busy kind of person and not pay attention to too much of the noise around me. But that was easy to do while it was so busy. When things started to let up a little bit, that's where I had to be a little bit more intentional about my thinking. And I've been proud of myself over the last 6 months to see some of the leads and the deals that I've pulled, what felt like, from 6 feet in the dirt. People that I thought, maybe I would never hear again, and then all of a sudden there they are. So what about the market? What have you learned about the market in the last 6 months?
It will always be changing.
I guess you've seen that, right? What's
It's
that?
very.
It's what?
I like that word. I have to be careful of it.
It's bipolar.
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 Bipolar. It's like the weather in the south. It is as bipolar.
Unpredictable from day to day.
Yeah, like you're starting learning, it's feeling like it's gonna be, there's negotiations, we could take, buyers can have, we can negotiate with sellers right now in this market, and then you hear next week, multiple offer situation, there's no way. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, it has been unpredictable, I think, from one house to the next. We
Yes.
think we've got it figured out in certain pockets of Atlanta, but then now it's completely unpredictable.
This really brings up a good point is that, you can live that tunnel where you just assume what you hear and see is the market, and you can let yourself live by that. And I see this, being a commercial guy, I don't do residential, but I come to the team meetings, I come to these meetings because I get to meet folks, I get to see folks, I get to experience things. Thank you, I've never heard of this writer. This guy would love to just pick up one of his 7 books and read it for personal.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. If I had stayed in my office this morning, I wouldn't have experienced that. And 6 months, if you watch the news enough, then it's turning down. Inventory's building up a little bit, interest rates are going up. But then I sit in this office and that team meeting every Tuesday, and people are still getting multiple offers. The interest rates are not scaring, I'm assuming, it's not every day, but interest rates are not deterring people. My wife and I noticed, she drives around, she gets mad at me because I don't have a central line. She said, I want to go see that house. I'm like, we're not going to see a house. I mean, I don't sell houses, okay, but we noticed that houses are coming on the market, but then they're going off the market. So buyers are finding houses and sellers are putting, I think, going back to, it's very bipolar, but if you let yourself get sucked in to the news, the market, and not be taking that bridge versus that tunnel, it'll dictate what you end up doing, I think. So.
Absolutely. And then like our last minute, anything that you learned about your clients or customers?
But I mainly work with buyers, first time buyers. And yes, initially when the rates were going up, I said, we're gonna wait, we're gonna crash. And obviously you have to re-educate them that, that kind of rates that were there, it's unlikely they're gonna come back. And just keep telling them and trying to coach them through and then work with the lender. If they can get cash back from the seller to buy down the rate. So it's a little bit more negotiations going on, but they still realize they have to buy rather than pay rent.
Absolutely.
Realize that buyers, and for anybody, as motivation changes. The people who didn't want to buy, even a year ago now, because the rates are higher, they are more motivated to buy even now. So things can change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that I have learned about my clients and customers as I'm reconnecting is they just love to be thought of. They love to hear from us. Just even a quick text or a handwritten note card, they feel thought of and seen and heard, and sometimes it leads to something, sometimes it doesn't, but they love that connection. So I would encourage you to lean into your database, do all of those things that we're supposed to be doing, and go build some bridges. So thank you for your time. I really hope you got something out of this today.
Thank you.
Y'all done?
Yes. I know, yeah, I know, right?